Bizarre names for simple concepts. Today, public static void, or Java's Hello World. Hello World is traditionally the first program you're taught to make in a language. It is usually a simple program that lets the student start with a win. This is not so in Java. In Java, Hello World looks like this. Class Hello World, public static void, main, system out, print line, Hello World. What? There is a lot going on in that statement, and one must understand a whole bunch of concepts just to understand what the code above is saying. This typically leads to people skipping over parts and trying to simplify, which only makes things worse and harder to understand. Let's break down the code into parts. By the way, these are all somewhat simple to understand, but they're all bizarre names for simple concepts. So first we have class, then public, static, void, and the rest. Class. Typically, a class is where you define methods, functions on an object. But as we'll see, you can define a function on the class itself using it as a namespace. Public. Well, public is part of a pair, public versus private. Public means that the method or function will be accessible outside the class or objects made from that class. In the Ruby language, public is optional. Why you have to explicitly use it every single time in Java is anyone's guess. Static. Static is the same as a class method. That is, methods that don't need an object. It can be used on its own. This is why the class declaration was only a namespace, since we're not going to create an object, but use the method function from the class alone. In JavaScript, class methods are also called static methods. Void. The void, the oppressive nothingness, is actually the return value of the method/function. Other languages have a nil value or a null, but nil and null are something, and void is nothing. Java is typed, so nothing has a type called void. TypeScript is also typed and has a void return type. In TypeScript, we can't return null, we have to return undefined, which is nothing. If we return null, we get an error. Type null is not assignable to type void. Now the rest are easy. Main is just a special method name that gets run automatically in Java. System.out is the class which contains the method we're going to be using to send the argument hello world to display in the terminal. System is also a namespace only class that can't create objects. The println method takes the argument of hello world and sends it to the display. Println is an anachronism from the teletype days when computers didn't have displays and they printed to a printer. The semicolon marks the end of the line. It is inherited from C syntax. Because C was the most popular language at the time of Java's design, it had a huge influence. And curly brackets also come from C. Conclusion. As you can see, public static void are all simple concepts with rather bizarre names. We can now read Java's Hello World. First, create a namespace called Hello World, or whatever you like, where we can define our main function. Second, define a public function so it can be called outside the namespace. That is also a class function, so it needs no object, that returns nothing, and is called main, so it runs automatically with no arguments. Then, define the function by calling another function, the built-in println function with the argument hello world. This function only has side effects and returns nothing, so our main function also returns nothing. Please click like and subscribe if you like these videos. And here are the image credits.